and welcome back to another watercolor segment with Laurel Hart. Today I want to talk about one of the main or first mistakes or traps that artists fall into, and that is in failing to see their subject as a whole unit before breaking it down into its parts. We have a tendency to want to jump to the details too soon, which tends to fragment our paintings. And we're just not willing or patient enough to lay a foundation before we jump to the decorative parts. And then our painting just doesn't hold up. It's kind of like having a whole meal of garnishes with no main course. And that just doesn't have enough substance to it. The concept that I want to talk about is called massing, or being able to link shapes, linking. And to do this and to master this skill, being able to see in masses or to link shapes together is really a critical ability that we need to develop as artists. In fact, I think it's one of the most important skills to master. To mass things is to combine smaller shapes together or objects together to form larger ones. It's kind of a way to multitask, you might say, where you combine, say, for example, if we're talking about household chores, we combine chores together to make our work shorter and simpler. Massing helps you simplify because it teaches you to see the subject as a whole, interrelated shape, rather than just as a fragmented collection of details and things. The purpose of combining shadow shapes is to help create a unified understructure that will hold your paintings together. It's really crucial to be able to see the whole pattern before you see the parts. The longer you can take in your painting to tie abstract shapes together before jumping to the details, the better your painting's going to hold up. Falling into the trap of jumping to the details first is like a builder starting with the brickwork before he's laying the foundation of the building. It just won't hold up. So massing or linking shapes is the foundation of your painting. I've got a subject drawn on here that I think is a perfect subject to use for this lesson. This is a photo that I took in Mykonos, Greece. Mykonos is an island that is really neat. It's all white buildings, and they're all whitewashed. And then they have these beautiful trims of bright blue or red roofs and tiles and things. So it's really a striking island. But in this photograph then, this is a good example of how you can look at this subject and see the whole pattern of the shadow shape before fragmented into its different parts. So it's a good thing, or maybe a good little demonstration, to try looking at a subject and mentally dividing it up into its shadow pattern and light pattern. And this one is going to be an easy one to link because most all of this is going to connect into one easy shape. So I'm going to demonstrate this. I already have my drawing on my paper, and I did this freehand. And what I want to do now is to show you how you can visually imagine this shape of shadow as being just one abstract shape. So I'm going to take a marker and come through here, and my object is to see if I can make one interconnected shape that if I needed to, I could cut it out with scissors into one piece or one shape. Now every subject is not going to lend itself, I goofed up, that comes over here. Every subject is not going to lend itself perfectly to do this. And so in some cases you'll have to kind of cheat a little bit and connect some of the shadow patterns where there might not be a link between them. Okay, this has a little bit of shadow going right through there. And then there's this light pattern up here, jumping across my figures. And down in through here, here's a nice little shape here that comes out of shade. Okay, so this is what I mean. And that would connect through there. Can you see this beautiful shadow pattern that I've drawn? All of that is connected into one shape of shadow. And if I needed to cut this out with scissors, like I said, I could cut that out into one shape. And that's the way that you want to look at your subject. You want to be able to see it as a whole abstract shape. Then these two pieces here are my light shapes. And there will be some little incidental pieces of light in here as well. But if you're able to do this, and if you can get this concept down to where you simplify that subject in your mind and come into it thinking of this in terms of one overall shape or pattern, then you'll have a really good foundation to link all of this together in your painting. So what I'm going to do then is to start with a wash that's going to cover this whole area. And it is not going to necessarily be broken up into these different parts of the building's anatomy, for lack of a better word. It's just going to be one continuous shape all together, and then later on I will come back in and add some of the detail to make the doors and the windows and so forth. But that's kind of like I was saying, it's kind of like adding the garnishes at the end. They're part of the beauty, but they're not the structure of the meal. So I'm going to get started here, and I'm going to start out with a wash. I'm on 140-pound Winsor Newton paper, and my brushes are my set of low Cornell rounds, and then I also have my Winsor Newton squirrel mops that I'll be using as well. So I will start like I normally do with a wash of a triad, manganese blue, big puddle of that. Permanent alizarin crimson. And then my yellow is going to be yellow ochre. And what I want to do is just mingle these colors as I bring them onto the page. I'm starting out on dry paper, and I want to mix more on the paper than I do on the palette. So you can see I'm picking up individual colors, but on the paper it is just being allowed to mix by itself. I'm going to jump over these little parts of these little slivers of white in here because they're going to be a little bit of an important part in here. And also where I've got these flowers coming in, I am going to put those in using pink there and leaving a little bit of lights to indicate the light on the on the flowers, the blooms there. And I'm just going to keep coming down here, and I'm just painting through everything that is in the shadow area of the painting, of the photo. And there's a really nice little white right there I don't want to lose. So I'm going back and forth from warm to cool, not really necessarily making it totally cool or totally warm at this point. And there are some little areas of white here too that I want to leave. Okay, and I think that's... And that's going to come out into the... I want to pick up that bead so it doesn't blossom back up into there. And back in here, to make this recede maybe just a little bit more, I will, I think, use a little bit of cooler color. I can see some tiny little pieces of light right in there. My puddles are disappearing on me here. And I am going to want to be careful to leave that little halo of white around the heads of these figures, because they're in backlighting, and it gives that beautiful little halo of light around their hair. The other figure here doesn't really have much of a light spot, but I'm going to put one there. And that shadow just comes across here right kind of at their feet. So then I'm just going to keep on continuing down over here. Just trying to keep my wash moving here. And that shape of shadow in this is just so beautiful because it's got all these little nooks and pieces that jut out that just make a really, really interesting shape. And this part of the shadow down in here is pretty dark, and I don't want to, if I can help it, go back into that too much. So I'm actually going to get that in with a little more concentrated paint. And I can see there's kind of a little shadow of something, probably one of these banisters that's casting a shadow onto the roadway down below here. And I am kind of keeping this shadow down in here a little bit cooler as well. Some really nice little pieces of light right in there too that I don't want to lose or cover. Because that's the thing that's interesting to the eye, are those little variations in the shape. And you can see I'm just treating that figure right now as if it's not even there. And then another really pretty little variation in the shadow. And hopefully I've got that value dark enough that it's going to stay. But you can see how your work is halfway done for you when you paint, where you've got this, where you've got these shadow shapes that are laid down in one big shape. You're a good ways there. Okay, and then there's something coming around here in a curve, like so. There went my paintbrush. Okay, but that is my initial wash, and and my initial shape of shade. I have to let this dry before I can go back in there, so I'll come back to this when I can work back on the dry wash. So guys, I'm having to dry my painting manually here because I forgot my hair dryer. This is not the best method, but I'm getting there. But you can see what a nice atmosphere that gives to the shadow areas when you let those colors mingle on the paper and you connect the whole entire shape of the shadow. Okay, well, that's going to have to do. I think this upper part is dry, so I can start coming in there a little bit. And maybe a little bit more with my flowers and things. And at this point now, I'm going to piecemeal a little bit around, as far as not, my wash now breaks up into more segmented segmented parts of the painting, but I'll still try to keep a really unified flow and look to things. I think I'm actually going to get those figures in so that I can kind of have bookend values. I'll be able to see how dark I'm going to go with my values and how light I'm going to stay. So they're really pretty dark. And with the legs in shadow there, they're not really skin color too much. And then over here, as you can see, I'm being careful to leave that little white halo around the head. That's really important to give the effect of the backlight falling on these two figures here. And she's got more of a turquoisey pants. And I'll let her feet just kind of come down into that shadow there, which is darker. But I don't really want to really leave a hard edge there. But that shadow's coming up and over the curb here. And then what's going to set off that little halo of light there is the door back here. Oh, I forgot to say too, in the drawing here, you see this horizontal line here. That is my horizon line, or in other words, the what is eye level in this painting. So what that tells me is that everything that is below this line is going to be slanting up this way, and everything that's above this line is going to be coming down this way, because my vanishing point is back here. So then I've got this, and these doorways are pretty much right at eye level, so they're going to be almost perfectly horizontal there. But if you ever do get a chance to go to this island, it's just so charming and so perfect for watercolor. Okay, I've got that in there. I'm still wanting a little bit darker shadow in here, so I still can see that that needs to come down in value here quite a bit. And I really hate to go back over this stuff here, but I think I need to. And then see, I'm kind of delineating where this building ends by painting around it. I'm sorry, I can't finish my sentences while I'm painting. And hope I'm not making a mistake here, but I do think this needs to be quite a bit darker. Sometimes it's fun just to throw a little bit of color in there, kind of break up the monotony of that all purple. And then I am going to pull some of that up into this building too. And I'll let that kind of happy accident just sort of bleed there. I think it'll give the impression a little bit of the texture of those cobblestones underneath there. I'll see if I'm right about that. And this this area here, I think, is turning a little bit more into the light, whereas this is the sun is behind here. So this part is going to be a little bit darker. So I am gonna make it a bit of a difference there. That's probably about the value I want there. Because that is a little bit darker in the as it's turned away from the sun. I'm still painting through that figure. And this area here, I'm going to let be a little bit warmer because it's should be reflecting some of the warm light from the ground. And then up in here, I'm going to come back while that's still wet and put in this blue railing if I haven't gone in too soon. And yes, that is a little bit too soon. Wait just a minute on that. And out here. I don't want to start delineating everything too much. Gonna just blend that in there for a little bit till I can get that dry enough to come back in with my blue. And it's maybe, yeah, it's a little bit drier. I can kind of start putting in some of the indications of these doorways up here. I've got this little banister up in here. And I'm really afraid I'm really coming into this while it's still a little too wet, but hopefully I'll be able to clean it up a little better. I'm going to use a little bit of the magenta. It's a little bit pinker here. For the flowers, and I want to kind of blur those around a little. And those are kind of coming all the way down around that lamp light there, and even some down into there. Then my green here, I'm dipping into my sap green, and I want to jump over this area where I've got the wrought iron stuff that is holding up the lanterns. So do you see what I'm saying? I'm painting behind that, this little curlicue thing, whatever that is. Okay guys, I'm getting some blossoms in here, and I'm just going to blame that on the fact that I don't have a hairdryer, but so be it. Okay, and then probably this greenery is going to set off the silhouette of that light. So now we can kind of see those a little bit better. I might want a little bit more of a yellow green in there, in the foliage in here. Okay. Then okay. This is that little awning part there. And there's going to be a little bit more flowery stuff coming down into here that spills over. I think. Maybe lose a little bit of that out here. And I'm kind of trying to show that there's some kind of curvature or places where the architecture bends in and out. Okay. That should come all the way down. But now in this stage is where I'm adding the detail and modeling the dimension. And I'm just kind of trading off a light plane to a shadow plane as this building goes in and out down the alleyway there. We have something right here, kind of a little fence thing. Can't believe the problems I'm having with blossoms here. Unbelievable. Okay, then there is quite a lot of stuff going on up here too. Okay, this. Got a little more. Right over the curve of this, there's some pretty dark foliage going on there. And it kind of comes down around that little, whatever this little bump thing is. And then there's some light, kind of cast shadow here. Coming down the side of that, which gives you kind of a feel of the direction of the sun. And I think I'll not put in this bush there. I don't know that it's really necessary. And might kind of compete with some of this other stuff we've got going in here. Was a little too bright there. Okay, then up here, this seems like it's a little bit warmer. Okay, and then there's these kind of little, I don't know what you call those, but then I can see that my my figures are going to need to be darker as well. Because they're pretty much one of the darkest things in the painting here. nice dark in under that lid thingy on the lamppost there. That's one of the darkest places too. And then this, probably a little bit of a little gray in here to make some shadow in there. That probably would have a shadow under it. So I can go to these details now that I've got my my underpainting on here without the risk of fracturing my painting too much. But okay, I do have to go back in and get these people darker, because they need to really stand out here. And now you can really see that little halo on her hair. Now they really look like they're the center of interest now, don't they? I'm just using some dark mixtures of indanthrene blue and transparent oxide red. Now I can hopefully kind of make it look like he's got shorts on there. Now they look a little more like they're standing in that shadow. He's got a cane up here or something, I think. Kind of interesting. This over here needs a little more of a deeper value. So it's getting set off from the other lighter building in the distance there. So now I'm doing some painting behind here to kind of help explain what's back here. Looks kind of like that's a shirt or something hanging. I don't know. But it's so much easier to explain stuff when you've already got this base of explanation down with your initial wash. And I am gonna kind of take this shadow back up into here. So now I can kind of cover some of those blossoms that I had there, and without too much problem. Now I'm into a little bit more of the calligraphy stuff, I guess you'd call it. And I want to be careful at this stage that I don't break things up too much now. You know, especially after you spend that much time trying to get a nice loose underpainting, you don't want to do too much to undo it. But there's not too much explaining we still have to do here. Some kind of doorways in here that are up in here. We'll kind of clean up that shape here too that I put in a little too soon. We can put in a little bit of these lines too to show that that's turning the corner and going back around the corner. Okay. And then down under here, there's kind of a shadow to show that there's that ledge right under the baluster, whatever you call that. I'm having a really hard time thinking out loud right now. Okay, so we've got that in. And this is a kind of a banister coming down there, but I think I do want to take that out a little bit. There's some nice little darks right in here that are important because they're giving some explanation of this little upper deck here and how it comes down that way. And a little bit of something warm back in there. I don't know what that is. But yeah, that goes across this whole little area there. And then we want to kind of show whatever this little underneath ledge is too. I've got way too much water in my brush. Okay. Then I think I'll put that figure in the bottom too. I'll come back and put that in. There's a little bit of some dark stuff over here, but I don't want to be too dark right at the edge. And under here too. Looks a little bit of a gray. A nice gray is the indanthrone or indanthrene blue with the transparent oxide red. That'll make a nice gray. Okay, I think we need kind of a doorway. It looks like there's a doorway right in here. Yes, and then it's got the stuff right there to show that that's the threshold. And then it can work in to nicely help show us where that little wrought iron stuff that's holding up the lantern is. Okay, let's get that figure in. And I'm going to be using really pretty thick paint on this person here because this is going to be really dark. And the skin tone's going to be pretty toned down because it's in shadow there. Well, it looks like they have maybe a scarf on. I can't tell for sure, but kind of looks like it. And then just a really nice dark let that go off the page. Okay, I'm just kind of analyzing where I might need some final darks now. I think I need a little bit of a darker shadow right there. It's a cast shadow and it should be darker. And then this little top knot thingy is a little bit darker here too. Okay, and right under there still needs to be a little darker on the lamppost. I'll put just a tiny bit of dark up there. And there's probably just, it looks like, a little bit of darks in here to indicate that that goes into an interior there. Same there. Kind of want to keep a little bit of the punches of dark right in here, it looks like, right near those figures. So I'm just putting in a little bit of the jewelry at the end here. Some little lights up there on the top of that building. And I'm kind of losing a little bit of that figure at the bottom there. Okay, I can see one of my problems right off here is I didn't go dark enough over here. And sometimes when that happens, all that is needed is a nice little wash of manganese blue, which is what I'm going to do. Throw this back into shadow just a little bit more. And then that will set off the lighter area back here where I want to show off that those two figures. Yeah, it really did need that. I really did need to go down a value. That's much more helpful. Well, I'm going to stop there. I think you get the idea of how nicely you can tie your painting together if you do connect all of the shadow areas together as much as possible at the beginning. I have a little bit more to do in here, I think, and I'll come back and put that in later, but thank you for joining me today, and I hope that this has been a worthwhile lesson. Thank you and goodbye. Hi everyone. Sorry. Starting over. And I'm still going to do that at the risk of looking quite awful myself. Cut. Let's do that over. Cut. Okay. Was that stupid?
No, it's fine.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another watercolor tutorial with Laurel Hart. Today I am going to talk about, Cut. Okay, I think that was supposed to end there anyway. Okay. Hi, and welcome to another watercolor segment with Laurel Hart. Today I would like to type...
Is your phone on?
Yeah. Hi, and welcome back to another watercolor... color. Okay. Dang it, I forgot my hair dryer. I don't want to sit here while this dries.
Okay, so get going as soon as that's ready. Your phone on.
Okay. Did that make sense? I didn't really, I don't know if that...
So marker two, right? You're done with
Yeah,
that.
we're done with that too.